Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you especially, Dean Mayo, for coming as well. I still remember that day I got your acceptance letter. That made my day. Okay, so my name is Nic Min. I'm a financial economist in training at Kellogg Northwestern. I study how information and technology could transform how companies perform and compete. So imagine you are driving from Evanston to Chicago on a hot summer day. Have you ever seen one of these road construction sites? I bet you have. But have you ever wondered who these companies are? That is, we all know that roads are public, but these companies seem to be private companies. So how did these private companies get to work on public projects? So answer lies in what's called public procurement market. So what we're seeing here is Illinois Department of Transportation procurement market, where the department releases 200 to 300 projects per month. Companies bid prices on contracts that they're interested in, and at the very end, the government chooses the minimum bidder for each contract to be the winner, and that winner performs the construction. So that's how the game is played, but for my talk, it's important to understand a little bit in detail how this really works. So let me go through one example. So we're going to look at one contract in March of this year. This is what's called bid tabulations data, where we can see who are the bidders and what are the items that the government is asking for. So before I get into any detail, really quick fact, we can see that there are 5 bidders, and here are the items that the government is asking for. It's tiny text, so let me zoom in to one of the items. So here's asphalt, one of the items that government is asking for. It's asking for 60 units of asphalt, and here are the 5 bidding prices. So the companies are asked to submit unit prices for asphalt. And how do we get to the price that each company is submitting for asphalt? You simply multiply that unit 60 with the unit prices, and you get to the price. So let's focus now our attention to Gallagher. So Gallagher is submitting here the prices for asphalt, but it's also submitting prices for all the other items as well. So how do we get to the total price that Gallagher is submitting for this contract? You add up those prices for all the items, and that's Gallagher's total bidding price for this contract. So far, so good. So at the very end, what government does is it compares that total price amongst the competitors and chooses the minimum bidder, and that minimum bidder becomes the winner and performs the contract, the construction. So that's how the game works. So now we have a better understanding. Imagine now you are the CEO of a brand new construction company, and you come across this contract that involves asphalt. And it asks for, say, 50 units of asphalt. The million-dollar question is, how would you come up with the unit price for that 50 units of asphalt? Answer, you look at data. So you look at how in the past bidders or winners have bid on asphalt. And using that data, you predict how for 50 units of asphalt you should bid. But that is not very easy as it sounds. So let me tell you why. So here I've downloaded on my computer all the bid tabulation data that I've showed. It is categorized by month. So if you open up for 1 month, you will see basically 200 to 300 bid tabulations data. One file, one bid tabulation. Now you check if that bid tabulation includes asphalt. If it does, you copy that data, paste it on your Excel sheet, move on to the next file, repeat this process. If you do this way, you need to open up 15,000 files just to find data for asphalt. Usually, typically, the contract involves 30 to 40 items, so you need to repeat this process for 30 to 40 times if you're interested in one contract. So usually, companies are interested in multiple contracts, so you need to repeat this whole process for multiple times. That's actually, what's more, actually, is that's only the beginning. So using that hand-collected data now, you have to train or fit a model to predict what that unit price should be for 50 units of asphalt. As you would imagine, this is a lot of work, and not many companies, in fact, not all companies can do this. And we're looking at here construction companies, so not all construction companies can do this. So here is an interesting problem that I identify in my research. Not using any equations or Greek letters, I'm representing everything in circles and diagrams. So here on the left, we see data-savvy companies represented in blue circles. Here on the right, we have in pink circle, the not-so-data-savvy companies. What I find in my research is the following. Say the government is asking someone to pave roads in Evanston. These data-savvy companies tend to bid close to each other because they're looking at the same benchmark data, whereas our confused, not-so-data-savvy companies tend to bid far off. At which point, our competitors would be confused and laugh at us, and we'll be very sad. So what I do in my research is I curate that messy, not so easy to navigate data into a visualized, more accessible data so that these not so data savvy companies can more easily follow the data and suggest how these companies should bid a price that is high enough to cover their costs, but low enough to win the bid. What is the significance of my research? So as you know, there's been a big push towards making government data more public. So President Obama signed an executive order saying that this order would make our economy greater. And President Trump largely agrees with this approach, signing another law recently. And these efforts are what gave us Google Maps, Redfin, Zillow, those softwares that make our everyday life more convenient with government data. So government data is great. I mean, without it, everyone is confused. With government data, the non-curated government data, some are happy, but there are always these companies that are left behind, still confused. In our scenario like ours, this is a huge problem because the fact that government is helping a subset of people means that it is actively hurting the other subset of people, where these companies are asked to directly compete with each other. So what I do in my research, to reiterate, is I curate that messy data so that no one is left behind. So the point I'm making in my research is simple and clear. Without data curation, public data has little value. Only with data curation can we turn public data into public value. Thank you so much.